Hi BookTube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching Books I'm Not Reading. I'm here today to do my video on Richard II as part of Shaketube, but I have to show you something. Jason and I decided that before we were 2 weeks into the school year here that Jason would go to the post office and mail a bunch of books out to people that we had promised them to. But it was weird because then packages started coming to us, and so this week, look at this. So I just really want to thank the person who sent us this. This is the Royal Shakespeare Company edition of the Complete Works of William Shakespeare, and I have to say I am really excited that we now have this, although Jason is still very adamant that we need to own all of the plays in individual copies because, of course, I'm never just going to read this. But anyway, Shaketube, if you're not familiar with it, is a month-long celebration of all things related to William Shakespeare, and it is hosted by my husband Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, Lukash from Totally Pretentious, Steve Donahue, and Rainey from Rainy Day Reads. Now, this week, Steve is hosting the discussion on Richard II. I asked Joe Smith, many of you who will know as a great commenter on BookTube, I asked Joe where I should start with the history plays, and she suggested I start with Richard II, which of course then is followed by Henry IV parts 1 and 2, and then Henry V. I will link to Steve's video down below. Of course, this isn't the first time Steve has done a video about Richard II, so I'm going to link to that video as well, because that's what I watched in preparing for my own video. I have to say though, I really don't know very much about British history, or probably we could argue world history. And so Richard II is just, totally new, totally fresh. But I think it is really important to remember that when Shakespeare was writing about Richard II, that his audience would have known that history and would have known, things that Shakespeare added that weren't things that he made up, invented. One of the things, spoiler alert, I guess if you're worried about Shakespeare being spoiled for you. So it's generally believed that Richard II was starved to death. Shakespeare actually gives him kind of a more heroic death than that, where he uses what Steve described as physical courage and bravery when he died. And so yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and it is interesting to think about what people might have thought about this play when it came out, which is around, I believe, 1595. And Richard II lived from 1377 to 1399, just to give you like some kind of contrast. So like almost 2 centuries have passed since Richard II, but still the people of England would have known what the story was. However, over time, his version of Richard II has influenced other people into what they think about him. So that I find that interesting as well, that Shakespeare is kind of revised history in some way. This is really a play about the fall of Richard II and the rise of Henry IV. And it's clear from the play that Shakespeare was getting ready for these other plays, because there are characters in here and lines that are said that are clearly precursors to things that happen in the other 3 plays later on. which is, I think, really kind of an interesting idea that he must have known, like, okay, I'm going to do this series, and so we're going to plant the seed for this in Richard II that's not going to show up till later on. And I do have to say, I am actually excited about reading these other history plays now, having tackled one. Now, Richard II is written entirely in verse, so that's kind of what it looks like. Very different from, you know, his other plays. I don't know how well you can see there, but it's not necessarily rhyming in verse, although that does happen. I think that's what makes it a challenging play in some ways, but it felt almost like one scene to me. I mean, there are obviously 5 acts, as is typical with Shakespeare, but it just seemed to me to move along, and fortunately the footnotes really helped me understand, like, okay, some time has passed now. Some time has passed before we're getting to this scene, even though, you know, you don't necessarily know that. Again, Shakespeare doesn't do much in terms of stage directions and things like that, and so it's really up to the actors and the directors to figure out what to do. He only wrote 4 of his plays in verse. All the rest are in prose. And I really enjoyed the comparisons, and it's really beautiful writing, actually, comparing Richard II to the sun. There's lots of moments like that, comparing him. There's definitely some Christ-like comparisons. And those are mainly made by Richard himself. I think he, you know, definitely you get the sense that he feels he was appointed to the crown by God, and you know, it's his right to be king. I will link down below. There is a scene from The Hollow Crown, which The Hollow Crown, that line does come from Richard II. I haven't seen The Hollow Crown, and it's no longer available on any of our streaming services, but I will link down below to a scene from The Hollow Crown with Richard II, which is he's played by Ben Whishaw, and you definitely get that sense. He's got this white robe with gold on the edges, and he's got his arms outstretched. So you definitely feel that, and the camera moves all the way around him. But I will also include a clip of Richard II played by Mark Rylance, who many of you will know if you've watched Wolf Hall. He's a tremendous actor, and he has kind of a different, a slightly different take on Richard II. So I'll link to a clip, and that was performed at the Globe. So I'll leave a link to that as well. One of the other things that I found super exciting about Richard II, which I guess I knew before because I've seen this before, but I was watching Michael Wood's In Search of Shakespeare last night, and this is a tremendous documentary. I highly recommend it. I've seen it multiple times, but I never paid much attention to discussions of Richard II in it. So, and Michael Wood points out something that happened that is actually, there are court documents from the Elizabethan age detailing what happened. So, in February of 1601, the Earl of Essex he had a group of followers, and they were concerned because Elizabeth, of course, Queen Elizabeth doesn't have any children, so there's no one to pass the crown to. So who is going to take over for her? She's getting older. So in 1601, supporters of the Earl of Essex went to the Globe and asked the Chamberlain's men, which included Shakespeare, to do a special performance of Richard II. And the actors they were a little surprised. I don't know if they knew what was going on with Essex. What they wanted to do was stir up a crowd, and the next day after the showing of Richard II, they were going to go and, I don't know, storm the castle or whatever. They were going to have an armed rebellion. And apparently, I guess, Essex took too long in getting there, and all the people had left by the time he showed up. So of course they all got caught. But they offered to pay the Globe more. All the actors got more money for performing Richard II. And the Queen, makes the connection between what people see in Richard II and what happened to him versus herself. And Essex is sentenced to death, and the day before he is executed, she commands the Chamberlain's men, again, part of the company at the Globe, to come and perform Richard II for her. So there's a story that later in the same year that this all happened, Elizabeth is reviewing historical documents related to Richard II, which that sounds a little bit weird to me. I'm not sure why. But apparently she said to the archivist, I am Richard II, know ye not that. So I think that's so fascinating that these people who wanted to have this armed rebellion thought that the play would be kind of an impetus to get people to rise up, and that it played some kind of role in history itself. So it's not just a history play, but it's a play that influenced history, if you will. I want to read a little bit of all of these plays. I bailed out on that last. I chickened out. So I'm going to read you just a tiny bit of Richard II. This is the Earl Salisbury, Salisbury Cathedral, if you've been to England, quite famous. Anyway, so they think King Richard is dead. This is Act 2, Scene 4, the end of it. And the Earl of Salisbury says, "Ah, Richard, with the eyes of heavy mind, I see thy glory like a shooting star fall to the base earth from the firmament. Thy sun sets weeping in the lowly west, witnessing storms to come, woe and unrest. Thy friends are fled to wait upon thy foes, and crossly to thy good all fortune goes." Thank you so much for watching this. If you've read Richard II and you have thoughts about it, please let me know. I'd love to hear about any adaptations that you've seen and enjoyed, or if the Hollow Crown is somewhere out there on a streaming service, let me know. I may just have to check it out from the library, which is terrifying. But anyway, so yeah, let's continue the Shakespeare discussion down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will talk to you very soon, BookTube.